So the program today consists of three parts. One was a launching of a coffee table book that commemorated the Kalahi Seeds, or the community-driven development. Kalahi Seeds is the name that people know, but it's really the platform is community-driven development. Over the years, Kalahi Seeds has brought much-needed developments or sub-projects in the farthest, poorest municipalities of the country. And this year, it marks the last year of Kalahi Seeds. So that was the first thing we did. We launched the coffee table book that commemorates the whole program. The community-driven development, kung hindi nyo matatanong, is all about community empowerment. Making communities choose the type of projects they think their communities need, them procuring it, building it, and then later on partnering with local government units to operate and maintain it. So this is the community-driven development model. Now, I said last year because it's already 20 years in the running, and it's already constructed 92,000 sub-projects nationwide. These sub-projects are micro in nature. They're small, but they're impactful. We were talking about hanging bridges that will connect communities to schools, water systems in the farthest areas, community daycare centers, small micro projects that people use every day. Now, that was the first part. The second part is for us not to be sad kasi it's the last year, pero we're opening the next chapter of it. It's called Pagkilos. Now, Pagkilos employs the same mechanism, which is the community-driven development, where again, communities identify the project. After they identify it, they procure it, build it themselves, and then they maintain it and operate it. Now, what's the difference? It still targets the poorest, farthest communities, 5th class, 4th class, 3rd class municipalities, but at this time, their projects will take into account community resilience. In the face of climate change and all these natural disasters, gusto natin na nauunawaan nila paano magplano ng mga proyekto na angkop sa pagpapalit ng klima at itong mga natural disasters na hinaharap natin, so that their communities become resilient. So the project menu is still the same. Hindi kami ang pipili. May negative list lang, like bawal bumili ng sasakyan. But when they do choose a project, let's say a water system, for instance, we want them to understand is where to build this properly, how to build it properly in light of climate change. Diba? If they're building a hanging bridge, they also have to think, what are they building something that is climate change resilient? So yun yung added layer. Now, when we target, like I said, poverty incidence is looked into, resilience, their risk, vulnerability to climate change, and last, the presence of indigenous people. The reason why may indigenous people is because most often, these are the communities that we don't listen to or hindi natin naririnig. So it's time to bring them to the planning table. So yun, that's what we did. So any questions? So let's talk about the benefits of it, the impact, the positive impact. You already said transparency. So it's one, empowering the communities kasi sila ang pumipili ng proyekto na angkop sa kanilang komunidad. It employs a bottom-top approach rather than a top-to-bottom approach. Diba? This emanates from the communities that's funded, yung ideas nila are funded, rather than the national government funding it. Second, it brings in development. Malalayong lugar to, liblib ng mga pook to. If we do not use this development platform, baka sila yung hindi napapansin kasi so far from city centers. Ito yung mga marami sa kanila nasa geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, mountains, islands. 3, it's transparent because again, the procurement is done by the community itself. It's not the national government. It's not government. We capacitate them, they choose, they procure, they build.